people get involved in your campaign. They say, you know what, I love this woman, I love what she's doing, she's fighting for us.
And I expect all of you guys to get involved with conservative media.
Do you have faith in Janet Napolitano to keep you safe from harm? These people are speaking it out here. They're letting you know what's going on. This is John Villarreal reporting for Conservative New Media.
I represent agriculture and I represent water. Okay? Water is one of the biggest issues in the country right now.
There's some crazy water wars going on out here. And for those of our audience that, you know, outside of the district, nationwide, tell people what's going on right here. This is really ground zero for the water wars. The Delta smell, Fox News has been out here. What's going on?
Well, it is ground zero. If you think about it, we have every major river in the state, with the exception of the Kern River, coming into this county, San Joaquin County. So it's this congressional district as well. So this is ground zero for water. We have water from the north coming in. We have water from the south coming in. We have the Delta. We have the whole thing. This is ground zero for the water. But the water thing here is really interesting. First of all, every conversation that is about water in this state needs to start and stop with storage. We need more above ground storage. We need more below ground storage. And the system that we've got in place now was built over 40 years ago that was designed for 18 million people. And we now have 36 million people living off that system that was designed for 18 million people. So we've got an old system that needs updating. We need to increase storage. It's just common sense.
Well, let me rewind a little bit and kind of fill people in on what I know, and I know you know way more about this issue. What we're talking about is, we're talking about the Central Valley of California, one of the most productive agricultural areas in the United States and maybe even in the world, if I'm not wrong about that. I mean, they're growing everything from, you know, you guys are growing asparagus here and oranges and grapes and everything like that that employs a lot of people. So we're talking about jobs, we're talking about food for everyone, we're talking about when you go to the grocery store out there, do you want to pay a little for food or do you want to pay a lot more for food, artificially inflated prices? And in order to have that kind of productivity here in California and in America on a food basis and even larger again with business, you need water. Because if we don't have water here in the Central Valley, things dry up.
Food grows where water flows.
I like that. See, I knew you. Talk about the basics like that.
But there's one point that you didn't mention that we do provide. In America, we provide the safest source of food and fiber in the world.
That's key.
Okay, so if we lose our agriculture here, which right now down south in the west area of the central southern valley, we are fallowing right now 600,000 acres of land due to not having water. Now, it's not that we don't have the water. We do have the water. Yes, we're in a drought, but we don't have the water because of the Endangered Species Act, and liberal judges have judged that the water has to flow out to the ocean to protect endangered species, quote unquote. And it's a completely imbalanced act that takes rights away from human beings and gives them to species.
And that's what's gotten crazy. And that's what I want to tell people out there, is that this guy, Brad Goehring, who's running for Congress, has been on the front lines fighting this battle as a conservative and trying to make sure that you, if you're in the Central Valley, have a job, and that anyone in the United States buying food at the grocery store pays a lower price and has safer, better food. And it's like the whole cap and tax thing with this environmental. You have environmental extremists that are raising the price of oil because they won't drill. They're raising the price of your cars because they have a gas tax and they have all kinds of other stuff. And now they're raising the price of food because they're worried about Delta smell. That's not even a local species.
It's not a local species. The whole thing with the Endangered Species Act is so out of balance. We've got to restore balance. What we've got to do is return sound science to that. There is no sound science. It's all conjecture and theory, and nothing's proven. And number one, if we're going to go down that path, it's got to be sound and complete and concrete. The other thing is we have and a perfect example of this is we have a conveyance system, 2 conveyance systems here in California to move water around the state. It's a federal project and a state project. The problem is that due to the Endangered Species Act, we can only turn on the pumps for 4 months of the year. Now, The months of the year that we can turn the pumps on is the months of the year when it's the driest months of the year. I believe it's September through December.
Wow.
Okay, all the winter runoff comes down in the spring.
Right.
Doesn't come down in the fall.
No.
In the fall, there's nothing coming down, and so all that water is run out to the ocean uncaptured, and we can't use it. The Kern County Water Authority is a very good example of a successful irrigation district who what they're doing is they're storing water underground. What they're doing is, get this, they are raising their groundwater levels by capturing excess runoff. In one wet winter, with the extra water, they're raising their groundwater levels 50 feet in one single wet winter. Wow. And so what that does is that gets them through 2 years of severe drought. And we need more examples of that throughout the state. We also need to raise the levels of dams. Shasta Dam was engineered to be raised by quite a few feet, which would almost double the capacity of the dam. Okay, why aren't we doing that? We're not doing that because of Endangered Species Act. Why aren't we turning on the pumps? We're not turning on the pumps because of Endangered Species Act.
This is crazy. So how many jobs and how much money in general do you think this is costing?
Well, it depends on where you're at in the state, but down in the central part of the valley, unemployment's over 40% in some areas.
That is insane.
40%.
I mean, we hear these horror stories of Detroit, this, that. I mean, that is the worst I've heard of anywhere.
Well, when you take the #1 industry in our state,
it's gone,
and you fallow 600,000 acres of land, it's going to have an impact.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk more broadly now. Obviously, you're an expert on that issue, and that's really what got you in this race.
Well, not quite the supply of water that got me in the race, but was clean water issues that got me into the race.
The EPA coming on your land and basically trying to fine you $100,000 and showing up in the black zone.
$100,000 a day and facing jail time. And it was the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers.
That is insane.